the truth remains that in some places the population is suppressed for political reasons. In some other places, the population numbers are also inflated for political reasons, and so, of course, that's a subject for another day. But again, the issue of population is what everybody should pay attention to, especially in a country like Nigeria, where you have so many people chasing the same scarce resource. And so, what happens? What should be the role of government? And a whole lot of questions to be
What's the
answered.
fate of Nigeria?
Yes,
All right,
exactly.
talking about the figures, the NPC, that's the National Population and Housing Census. Okay, now they are. We haven't heard anything for this administration as regards the NPC is awaiting Tinubu's nod for the census. I don't know if you recall, as at last year, they were already recruiting ad hoc staff.
Yeah, yes.
National Population Commission, right?
Yes,
They're already, recruiting ad hoc staff, and a lot of people had signed on to be part of the job, and billions have been spent into it. Anyway, 7 months into this Tinubu-led administration, there's yet to be an announcement of a date for Nigeria's long-awaited National Population and Housing Census, raising concerns about national planning and governance. The delay comes after former President Bola Mohammed Buhari postponed last year's census indefinitely, leaving it up to this government. Despite pledging support for the census, Tinubu has yet to confirm the exercise and when it will take place, leaving some people anxious. The last census in Nigeria was conducted in 2006. And 140 million was recorded. Since then, the country has relied on estimated figures for policy decisions. I don't think that's very, that's not very
no, not good
wise.
at all. Yes.
So it's like we said, estimated figures for policy decisions, which has left many concerned about data accuracy for resource allocation. So how do you allocate resources? And then, of course, representation. How do you carry everyone along? How do you allocate resources when the last census you have was like 140 million, in 2006.
Yeah.
And so the National Population Commission, that's the NPC chairman Nasir Kwara, revealed that about 200 billion naira has already been spent on preparations, and the commission is equipped with about 760,000 digital devices to conduct the census. So now 200 billion on the way, already put out for the exercise, and we're yet to hear from the administration. Anyway, let's bring in our still trying to connect with our guests at this point. But then the rapid population growth poses both opportunities and challenges for the nation. I mean, if we tap into it, China is seriously leveraging on their population. It's actually a huge strength. Analysts would say, experts would say, if you can leverage on it, if you produce enough, you consume it yourself and export the excess, then, your economy, that's just basic economics. I don't think I have to be an economic analyst to understand, because when you enrich and empower your own, you have the population to consume these things. You have the population to, when it comes to manufacturing and the federal and state government, we're not even hearing conversations around it. What ministry even is supposed to oversee, the issue? Should be humanitarian affairs. Ministry, we don't have a clear.
No, I think the NPC should be under the presidency because they relate directly with the president, not really exactly under any ministry. From what you've seen, and you were reading something from, according to the data, the last time we conducted the census was 2006.
Yeah, but so far, if it's not looking very effective, then someone should oversee that. Oversee what's going on there with the population growth and all that. All right, then. So Nigeria's economy struggles to keep up with the population surge. Unemployment currently is around 33%, exacerbated by a lack of sufficient job creation. There's also pressure on infrastructure, healthcare, educational systems, as these sectors struggle to meet the demands of a growing population. Inadequate economic diversification, you name it. The challenges are much.
Yeah, a whole lot. As I was trying to say, according to the law that instituted the NPC, census are supposed to be conducted every 10 years. So that means that the last time we conducted in 2006. We're supposed to have another one in 2016, but it appeared that the Muhammadu Buhari administration didn't really care so much about that, and would expect that maybe the Tinubu administration may want to go in a different direction. It's been over a year now, and it doesn't seem like the body language of the government wants to go in that direction. I said that for a reason, because in 2006, when that population census was conducted, if you remember, for those who are maybe adult at the time, the Lagos State government under Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while he was governor, conducted its own census. I don't know if you remember, Kimberly, because Tinubu simply said, "Oh, I don't trust the numbers from the federal government. I need to conduct mine." And the population figures that the Lagos State own census agency presented was, of course, far different from what the federal government conducted. But of course, there's not a problem with that. But again, we need to know our actual population so that we can plan with it. And population figures also centers around, of course, birth registration, death registration. So we need to know how many people are dying, how many people are, coming into the world as Nigerians every day within the country, and a whole lot more. So you need to be able to plan around your budgeting and say, okay, this is the percentage from our budget that we should give to education, because we know so number of people are getting enrolled daily. This is the percentage we should give to health. This is the percentage we should give to. I mean, just helps. So it will seem that many state governments are just making plans based on the idea that they have that, okay, this is the number of people who live within, and that's not right at all. We can't be relying on the census figures from 2006. So all we're working around now is just with estimates. That's why I said many people are contesting the numbers, saying that, oh, maybe it's lesser or maybe it's more. But like you said, if you look at the people in Lagos, there's a suggestion that we're probably more than what we currently bandy around.
Yeah, sure. All right then. So our analyst on the program, we'll connect with our analyst shortly. Be a part of the conversation. How do you think this impacts the economy, and what are your expectations of the government at this point as regards Nigeria's growing population? Believe it or not, it is an issue. Like we said, I don't think there are clear policies in place communicated with Nigerians as regards how, this population growth is looking to be tackled. Like we said, China had the issue. I think Nigeria now is 3 on the scale, number 3. Number 2?
Yes.
India,
based on
China.
India, China,
And
then
I think Nigeria.
no, I think there are some countries that come before. I think the United States is, of course, very more populated than Nigeria is. I think there are some countries that come on that scale, but of course, you know that India and China, of course, top the list. Yeah, and of course, you were referencing that projection that maybe by the year 2050. The population of Nigeria will probably be 500 million. Well, I don't know how that is expected to happen, but I think it's a possibility. I mean, if you can move from 50 million to 120, 150, then to 200 million, and now to 220. Yeah, I think that's. But again, we just need to have policies in place to ensure that we can manage that explosion.
Not just policies, implementation of, implementation is always the take home. It's one thing to come up and say, okay, let's emulate China and what they did with the one-child policy. It's another thing to ensure. But then how do you then, ensure that these policies or moves will be sustained?
But that's a very sensitive issue, especially for a society like ours that is very religious. So if you try to suggest that, people need to control how many kids they give birth to, it's going to raise highbrow in certain sections. So that may be very sensitive matters that maybe policymakers may not want to dabble into. So you may need to consider other means. I mean, this is a country where even when it comes to birth control, a lot of people still have so many issues with it about the fact that, you can't tell me how I should or do,
No, but now with the current hunger rate, I don't think anyone is fighting with how many kids they're supposed to have. Because when you know that, they don't need to tell you that taking care of your child is going to take a lot. Although some still, in rural areas, I think that's where sensitization comes in. When you talk about, well-meaning Nigerians, volunteers, volunteer groups, NGOs, and, even the government has a role when it comes to sensitization. At the local level, you sensitize the people on the need to not give birth so much. I think in the olden days, we hear that a lot of people give birth so much because, number one, it's a sign of wealth. That means that you're going to have more children, taking care of your farmland and, bringing more food in. But now you have more children when school fees is like, the increase in fees, the increase in rent, limited, the more people grow, I don't think you'd have as much space.
Let me shock you. As we were talking, I just suddenly remember the data that I came across. And when you mentioned the fact that with the economic situation now, many people may want to reconsider their stance of giving birth to so many people. The IDP camp, one of them in Benue State, so the coordinator spoke out sometime last year and said that in that particular camp, every month they were recording 200 births. So that means that some of the IDPs women were giving birth to 200 babies every month.
Why do you think birth rate is higher in rural areas? Do you think it's boredom?
Well, that could also be a reason. I think, like I said, I think education also plays a role. Because not many of them are well educated enough to know that this is what you should do in case you want to prevent a pregnancy or something like
No,
that.
but some are well aware that if you do this, you impregnate a woman. I don't think, because after the first, second child, you know that you get pregnant if you do this. So is it the prevention that becomes a challenge?
Again, issues around birth control or prevention are, for some people, they anchor it on religion, and you know that we
Yeah,
are
and
very
they'll say,
religious.
oh,
Yes,
no,
yes,
don't do
yes,
that.
yes,
So if
exactly.
you do that, hey,
You know.
and certain things
Yes, yes.
like that. But
Yeah,
then
so
you were saying.
yeah, so it's like I said, it's a very simple. Like you said, yeah, boredom, ignorance, and again, I think access to basic health care, and so many things that you could suggest to some people and say, okay, do this if you want to prevent the occurrence of pregnancy. Not many people have access to be able to readily purchase some of those items. And as I was reading that report, one of the men said that we do it because it makes us happy. I mean, how could you be in an IDP camp? That's the worst situation that anybody can be in. You are displaced, and you think that betting more children into that same kind of environment should bring you some joy. But again, people want what they want. But we just keep talking about the fact that, hey, man, you need to do this to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. And it's left to them to make their choice.
Yes, well. All right, then. So what do you think? 0805 092 0927 or 0705 890-4927. Send a WhatsApp message to 070-569-00927. Nigeria's growing population. What's the way forward? What are your recommendations? How can, the youthful demographic leverage on, what are the expectations of the youths? Because right now the youths are like 60%. All right, I think we'll successfully hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm totally sorry for the delay. Thanks again for this opportunity.
Thank you for being so polite. All right, so now I don't know if you've been following the conversation at the opening of the program today. We're talking about Nigeria's growing population and how, there isn't a lot of buzz. We're not hearing a lot of conversations around this. Even if the international community and, organizations have been warning that this is, a time bomb. Like, it's amid dwindling resources and everything going on in the country. If it is not controlled, then it might just be, a very big issue to deal with in the future. So what are your thoughts on the growing population? Why do you think this is happening? And, so far, this administration hasn't said anything about census. So just make of it what you will.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, first of all, if you look at the population of the country, Nigeria is not doing badly when it comes to the population growth. Because whether you like it or not, considering our population today, in fact, there are questionable issues that regard the credibility of the figures that is being dished out as regard the accuracy of the number of Nigerians that we have. And so far, the general accepted is that Nigeria is over 200 million in terms of this population. And a country that has that particular number in terms of development, in terms of human capital development, in terms of human resources development, and so many others. So whether you like it or not, population is a strength to a nation. The United States of America today, being a populated country with over 300 million, in fact, are even looking for more ways how they can increase the level of population, because the level of population, when it increases, it also increases the economic capacity and capability of the country. And you cannot exonerate the importance of population and economic growth. Likewise, you cannot also exonerate the importance of population on human capital development in the country. We can take aside the case of China as one of the most populous countries in the world, with over 1.2 billion. Look at India, one of the population with over 1.3 billion. You continue to understand that if we have a population that is growing, and we are also matching it with our level of human capital development, it becomes a strength to the nation. It is the lack of the proper utilization of a population of a country that makes it a threat. So as far as I'm concerned, if you look at the population of Nigeria today, I don't want to see it as a threat to the society. Rather, if all available institutes or if all available policies are put in place, it can be seen as a strength to the nation. I think I'll stop at that.
Okay, now you're seeing it like, based on the reality now, based on, amidst everything going on. Currently, Nigeria is the 6th largest country in the world by population and is expected to overtake 3 countries, that's Indonesia, US, and Pakistan, when we hit 450 million by 2050. I think that's according to the UN. So now, what do you make of this? If this is not handled, going by the current reality on ground now, what do you foresee?
If you look at the current reality on ground, I think it's cause for concern because the population growth goes at a geometrical rate. 3, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, that's the geometric rate. Now, if you now look at the economic rate of development, the economic growth at arithmetic progression, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, until we are able to match the economic growth vis-a-vis the population growth, then it's most likely that it will be a problem to the society. What I mean is that we need to put policies in place that will also allow the economic development of the country to grow at a geometrical progression. So I stand to be corrected if that is achievable. But if that is achievable, it is on record that less than 10% of the totality of Nigerian population is being taxed. So if we have a situation whereby we can tax at least 30% of the Nigerian population, what it means is that we are going to have more money. So if our population is increasing by year 2050, as you have likely said, about 400 million, so if we can tax out of that 400 million, if we can bring about 200 million, or let's say 50% of the entire population into the tax net, it also means more money is coming from the government. Now, more money coming from the government means that more additional money will be available for development, for infrastructural development, for policy that will drive out human capital development in the country. So whether we like it or not, it is the proper thing for us to be worried because the rate at which our population is growing, and yet we don't have policy in place that matches the corresponding population, then it becomes a threat. That is why you see that the level of dropouts in school of children in the northern part is becoming a threat to them because most of these dropouts of school children are being recruited into banditry, terrorism, and even what kind of any kind of social menace that you can call it. So as far as I'm concerned, the government needs to particularly look at certain things. Number one, how many Nigerians are living in Nigerians? We need to get the accurate figures. And about the census, it is quite unfortunate that we try to match everything together. Why can't we begin to count individuals right from their place of birth? That is why you have hospitals records. That is why you have Nigeria Population Commission board to go about and making sure that we have the accurate figures of individuals. Now, if you begin to get children registered at the point of birth, it is more likely that we have the accurate figures compared to when we begin to conduct census every 10 years. That is quite expensive to run. You will agree that the government has come on several occasions to say that conducting a national census is expensive. In fact, we need to even beg for international aid for us to even carry out our census. So, in order to beat that lacuna, that crisis, that gap, then why don't we begin to register children at point of birth? Now, the question now is, do all births take place in the hospital where it is recordable? The answer is no. We see how people who patronize trado medical practitioners. We see how women who give birth in their various homes, houses. Now, it is the responsibility of government now to now initiate a policy that will accommodate these tradomedical institutions into the formal institutions and begin to enlighten them on how to make birth records and how to give feedback to the government. It is not the responsibility of government also to initiate policy like mobile hospitals where pregnant women can get access to antenatal at the comfort of their home. What it means is that rather than letting the pregnant women go to the hospitals for the purpose of record, you bring the hospital down to the pregnant women at their various homes. By the time you are doing it, you are getting accurate records. You are also giving a kind of feedback mechanism to the government to ascertain the number of citizens that we have in this country. So whether we like it or not, it's a must that we do that. If we don't do that, that is when our population becomes a threat to the country.
All right, then. We still have a lot of questions to go over with you. The conversation continues. We'll come back just right after the short break. It's 27 minutes past 8. Spotlight right here on Super FM. I am your host, Kimberly, and Abiodun, of course, is in the studio. Stay with us.
It's 92.7 and you're listening to
One Radio. Yo, 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio.
The Glow My G bundle, the first all-in-one
One family.
bundle. It's the perfect bundle for
One radio.
Snap it, stream it,
92.7 Super FM.
everything
Your
you love
one
doing
family,
online. With
one
My G
radio.
bundle, you get the
Super
data deals
92.7
from Instagram,
FM.
TikTok, Snapchat,
One family.
Audiomack, and Glow TV.
One radio.
All-in-one bundle. Now,
92.7
every Naira
Super
counts
FM.
With affordable
Your one
all-in-one
family,
data bundles
one
with
radio.
Glow My G.
Super
Get 1
92.7
gigabyte for 300
FM.
Naira, 1.5
One family.
500 Naira, and 3.5
One radio.
1,000 Naira on the Glow My G
92.7
bundle.
Super
Don't
FM.
forget 1
Your
hour
one
of free
family,
browsing on your
one
favorite
radio.
apps. That's
Super
Instagram,
92.7
TikTok, Snapchat,
FM.
WhatsApp, Boomplay,
One family. One radio.
Start making easy
92.7
Naira
Super
Glow My G
FM.
bundle.
Your
T's
one
and C's
family,
apply.
one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio. Super 92.7 FM.
One family. One radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family, one radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family, one radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7. Welcome back.
One family, one radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
Welcome back.
One family, one radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family,
To revitalize the administrative and civil registration data. No name. This one says government at all levels needs to prioritize investment in quality education, particularly for girl children and also in family planning. This will empower women to be able to make rational decision on when, how, and number of children they want. Okay, Abiodun, is it entirely up to the woman to decide how many?
Not exactly, because this is not solely the responsibility of one gender. I mean, the other gender also has to participate. Either the person is maybe a sexual partner or a husband or whatever the case is. So it's not as if...
And society too, because
exactly.
when someone decides they want just one or two children, you don't say, "Oh, this now Nigeria, no, they born two, no, they born only one." You know those kind of conversations.
There are traditional, nuances around those things. Exactly.
You're not white, or as if you help them take care of the children. Anyway, thank you for staying with us. Thank you. Are you with us? Afolabi?
I'm with you.
All right then. So I think Abiodun has questions at this point.
All right. Afolabi, just before we went on the break, you were saying something about what needs to be put in place to accommodate the expected growth in population, especially as we look forward to the year 2050. That's some 26 years to come. And you mentioned something about policies to be put in place to ensure that people are counted from the time of their birth. And that's just one of the interventions that you suggested. So I want you to go, right into some other things that you think our policymakers need to put in place to be able to prepare for these population surge that we expect to happen in 26 years or over the next 26 years.
Very much. I think, first of all, let me also bring back some data. We've talked about registration from birth, which is just one of those policies. We also most likely talk about education. Enlightenment. Education that has to do with sex education for both genders, both for male and also for female. Because whether you like it or not, education has a role to play in your decision making, and the quality of education you get will also determine the quality of decision that you're also making. Most unwanted pregnancy today, majority of them might be as a result of the fact that there is lack of proper education, sex education for our teen youths on how to go about their reproductive activity. So I suggest that we must begin to introduce sex education to our children right from our homes, not from the schools. Now, the schools are always given the responsibility of educating the children, but it's also the responsibility of the parents to educate their children on reproductive education. Reproductive education for the male, reproductive education for the female, and also educating them on the consequences of having an unwanted pregnancy. That is number one. Number two, the third policy that I think the government can also implement, which is also a questionable debate now, is the legalization of abortion. Now, I know this will spark a lot of criticism out there, but whether you like it or not, it is also an option that can be used to control population. In America today, America is talking about how do we make people begin to decide whether they want to have baby or not, or whether it is lawful for them to have an abortion or not. Okay. So if we critically look into that also in Nigeria as a possible way to control population, if we want to control population, like I said, population might not likely be a crisis, a negative trend to a country. But if we want to, control that population because it's not becoming a negative trend, then we might looking about how do we legalization of abortion in Nigeria.
Okay.
They're number 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, are there some loopholes that you can identify as regards the current structure when it comes to the commission or, how population and census is being overseen in Nigeria? Are there some loopholes? Are there some corrections or, recommendations that you'd make for better...
In terms of what?
In terms of the structure, the current structure, do you think, for example, there should be a ministry particularly for that? Do you think, beyond the MPC, do you think that, would you recommend that, because, beyond just collating and getting the exact figures, how, are these policies, how are you going to ensure the implementation of this? How particularly for that purpose, like population and not just merging everything together, are there some loopholes you think you can identify with that?
Thank you very much. I think in as much as I don't want to put everything at the doorstep of the MPC today, that's the Nigerian Population Commission, there are other available institutions of government that collect data that can be used for the purpose of estimating our population. And thank God for the introduction of the Nigerian Identity Number, that is NIMC, which also brings into questions that each registration also suggests that each registration is an individual. That is the one part. So, giving MPC a full ministry might not likely be necessary. It might likely be duplicity of functions, because there are other institutions of government also that are also involved in having statistics in terms of the numbers, having data in terms of the number of people that live within a particular geopolitical zone. For instance, also the INEC. As INEC as it is, whose responsibility is to perform credible election, INEC could also be a data collection institution that can be used to also suggest the population of the country. So as far as I'm concerned, what we can all do is that we need to fortify and enhance the capacity of MPC as an institution of government. MPC as an institution of government in this country is quite facing a lot of challenges. Now, challenges that have to do with shortage of manpower, unskilled personnel, of course, underfunding, and so many others. So what we need to do now is, how do we increase funding? So that by the time we increase funding to MPC, so that they can begin to roll out policies that will ease their mode of operation. Number 2 is, how do we enhance the capacity of the staff, individuals that are in MPC? Now, I don't know the strength capacity of MPC today, but I'm very, very certain that it is shortfall of what is required in the country. For instance, there are MPC offices in all local governments of the Federation. How many staffs? What is their staff strength in each of these local governments? So these are some of the questions. So we need to look at staffing, we need to look at funding, we need to look at capacity building, and we also need to look at international collaboration, and we also need to look at integration, synergy effort within other institutions of government whose responsibility is also for the purpose of collection of data. So by the time we match all these things together, we might not likely need to establish a full-fledged ministry for the purpose of population. Rather, we might only enhance the agencies of government that are in the responsibility of collecting data for the purpose of giving accurate figures of the kind of the population of the people that we have in the country.
All right. So now, how do you think Nigeria's rising population affects food security and Nigeria's energy?
Well, you see, it is quite unfortunate that the level of insecurity that we have in this country is quite an alarming rate. Whether food security, whether otherwise, it's quite an alarming rate. And like I said, our population is growing at a geometric rate. Our food production is also not growing. It's not even growing at all. It's static. So it becomes a problem. It places much pressure on the existing infrastructure. It places much pressure on the existing product. It places much pressure on the citizens themselves. Because whether you like it or not, if we don't increase the level of production in this country, and we are growing at the rate at which we are growing, Nigeria will continue to be the poorest. Because if you calculate the resources that we have per capita to each head, then it will also tell you that an average Nigeria will continue to earn less because of the fact that we are not producing as a nation because of the low level of capacity we have as an individual. So whether you like it or not, it is a threat to the food security of the country. It is also a threat to the general security of life and property in the country because, when there is lack of education, when there is lack of human capital development, it now goes down to the average common on the street, and at the end of the day, you begin to notice that Nigeria is now becoming poorer, not just because of the fact that we don't have the capacity, but just because of the fact that there is a lot of pressure on the existing infrastructure, which is also making Nigerians to be at an impoverished state.
All right, so I always ask questions as I focus on the 3 tiers of government, not just the top tier, but then the state government and local governments as well. So where do they come in all of this?
Yeah, I've said it, and the state government, the federal government has its role to play. The state government has its role to play. Even the local government themselves has their role to play. And whether you like it or not, it is the function of the federal government to give a holistic view about the roles and the ways in which they are supposed to implement policies that will enhance the capacity of the average Nigerian. It is the effort of the state government to work in a collaborative effort with the federal government, and it is the responsibility of the state government also to implement most of these policies on ground. And like I said, that we have to stimulate economic growth from the grassroots. What it means is that each local government should be identified. Each particular policy should be prioritized based on the local government. For instance, let me say, conducting a census in Southwest is totally different from conducting a census in the northern part of the country due to so many reasons. One, religious reasons, social economic reasons, and so many others. So we need to begin to prioritize the policies based on the areas in questions. So if you begin to do that, that is when we will now find out that each policy that we are implementing will address certain issues. But if we give a general blanket, a single policy for the whole country, it might likely be successful in some parts and might likely not be successful in the other parts. So what we have to do is that prioritize each policy based on the localization, based on the areas that is under focus. By the time we are going to do this, then we can holistically say that we are tackling the issue about population and how can we enhance population into the Nigerian growth. That's the one part. Now, if you look at let's talk about the executive arms of government as regards what they can do. They can bring up policies that can also enhance them, that can also enhance how we can increase the capacity of existing infrastructures to cater for the Nigerian citizens. The National Assembly also has a role to play. Rather than being a mere rubber stamp National Assembly, the National Assembly can carry out the oversight functions to most of these ministries, for instance, NPC, to ascertain what is the level of capacity that they need, what are their challenges, and to give a legislative backing to enhance the capacity of NPC as an agent of government whose responsibility is to collect data on behalf of the federal government. So I can go on and on, but whether you like it or not, we are not going to exonerate the fact that there is need for all institutions of government to work hand in hand in order to achieve a desirable population growth that vis-a-vis also enhance the economic advancement of the country.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Abiodun.
Thank you again, Afolabi. So something comes to mind.
Yeah.
Kimberly just asked you about the role of different government institutions, like, of course, the LGAs, the state government, and not just the federal government this time. Just before you came on here, we're talking about the influence of, maybe politics or political actors on our population figures. Of course, that also applies all over the world. It brings to mind, I'm sure you remember that guy. His name, Festus Odimegu, who was chairman of the NPC under the administration of Goodluck Jonathan, who said something about the fact that there's always been a distortion in our population figures, and that angered a particular section of the country. So I say that for a reason. So do you think that maybe politics or tribal or ethnic sentiments may be one hindrance to ensuring that we have accurate, and credible population census conducted in the country? Or do you think that could also influence it in some way?
Yeah, thank you very much, Abiodun. Like I said it previously that in order for us to carry out an accurate census in this country, we need to look at the peculiarity of each regions. And I likely said it like that it is more easier to conduct a census in some part of the country compared to the other. And in specifically in Southwest, it is more likely easier to conduct census in Southwest compared to the northern part.
Why do you say
because
that?
Of social.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the socio-cultural reasons that surround each region. For instance, in the northern part, it is very difficult for you as a man to go into an household where it is forbidden for man to come, because there are households that is forbidden for men to come into such household in the northern part. And it becomes more difficult for us to get accurate data. Now we have it on record where figures are over bloated just for the purpose of getting higher census figures as the outcome of the general census. Now those things can always be eradicated if we tailor down each policies to a particular area. Now, for instance, in the northern part, one of the suggestions I suggested is that maybe only certain individuals from that regions, in terms of religion inclination, in terms of cultural inclination, should only be assigned to such path. So it might likely be difficult for you to appoint a Christian who is not from the northern region to carry out a census in those parts and hoping that he's going to get accurate figure, because he might not likely be allowed to enter into certain places where he needs to conduct most of this exercise.
Yeah.
But it's much easier to get a northerner who is a Muslim to conduct such activities, such enumeration in such places, because they have both cultural and social inclination. These are some of the examples that we are giving.
Okay.
So whether you like it or not, these are hindrances that might likely affect the accuracy of the figures, and there is disparity when it comes to the total figure. That's why people will tell you that the population of Kano is more larger than the population of Lagos. Why? Because there are discrepancies during, and there are issues that have caused some discrepancies as a result of the bloated figure. So whether we like it or not, these are issues that we need to sort out. But let me quickly also say that Nigeria's population should be seen as a strength rather than as a threat.
Okay, Afolabi,
because,
I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Now, I was going to ask you, the word policies is always repeated, but as regards population now, what policy exactly would you recommend? Would you say, for example, that the government should go on and say, okay, just have 2 children, the government will pay you some money, or, what do you think is obtainable now in Nigeria in wake of... Yeah.
The fertility rates that is being given. Nigeria has the highest number of fertility rates in the world, and it stood at 5.4. What it means is that an average Nigerian has a tendency of giving birth to 5 children. Now, because of the economic reality, people are now beginning to adjust to 2, 1, 2, 1, most likely highest 3 children. But that does not go that does not affect the generality of those Nigerians. There are citizens in this country, in some parts of the country today, who still believe that having more children is a blessing rather than a curse. They are not looking at the economic implication of having multiple children within the household compared to having these few children that you can cater for. So whether you like it or not, you are going to see some level of the high level of poverty in such places compared to areas where we have people who are more enlightened that giving birth to 2 or 3 children is much economically advisable compared to when you give birth to 6 or 8 children. And whether you like it or not, the fertility rate that has came out today said that on average Nigeria can give birth to 5 to upward in terms of the number of children you can give birth to. So now, what the Nigerian government can do, because of the fragility of the society we find ourselves, it might be difficult for the government to come out and say that we need to control our birth rate by making it mandatory for people to bear only 2 children. Nigeria is going to go into flames. Because certain quarters within the country will not agree to that.
So what do you think is obtainable?
Yes?
So what do you think is obtainable? What policy?
Now, what is sustainable is that Nigerian government we need to encourage people in terms of sexual education. We need to encourage people in terms of making sure that they have accurate birth records. We need to also ensure that Nigerian government also puts in place infrastructure that will enhance the capacity of an average Nigerian. So even if you decide to bear more children, then definitely the infrastructure capacity or the human capital development is always there for you to cater for the children. So it does not become a cost, rather it becomes a blessing. But I will tell you the real fact, it will be difficult for the Nigerian government to bring out a policy, to bring out a deliberate policy to control birth rates in Nigeria. Right. That might work in certain parts of the country, but I can bet you that will not work in certain parts of the country also.
Afolabi Ogunleye, thank you so much. We're on the clock now, but thank you. We appreciate your insights. We appreciate you coming on the program this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
thanks for the opportunity.
Political scientist and socio-economic affairs analyst Afolabi Ogunleye. We talked extensively about Nigeria's growing population and its impact on the economy, given that a recent report by a development economist at ABU Zaria said that 82.9 million Nigerians currently are living below $1 per day. And that was when $1 was even 400. So now, now that dollar is going between 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, we don't even know where that leaves the other ones that were slightly above 400 naira per day. But then, it's not even something to laugh about. It's a very sad situation, and that makes conversations about population a serious one, and something that we encourage the government at all levels to take very seriously. In the long run, even for the international community, it's a big deal because we have a lot of migration, people going out of the country. So how many can they really, contain? That's why they have just been raising the alarm. Please, government, do something about this, because at the end of the day, it's an excess for us.
Exactly.
Even I think one country, Sweden, is already paying people to go back to their country. Yes. Exactly. All right, then enjoy your day, and I do hope that you have a day that is a sky full of stars later in the day. Anyway, I was just trying to see how that connects. Take good care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of today's broadcast. I am Kimberly. Bjorn, big thanks. Cheers.
Wanna tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Something to tell you.
One Radio, 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family,
I got something to tell you.
one radio, 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family,
I got something to tell you.
one radio, 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family,
I got something to tell you.
one radio, 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family, one radio, Super 92.7 FM.
One family,
I got something to tell you.
one radio. 92.7 Super FM.
Your one family.